10 famous Golden Age directors that all actors hated. Number 4 is shocking. Lights, camera, chaos. These Hollywood legends created cinematic masterpieces that defined the Golden Age, but behind those perfect shots and iconic scenes, pure terror for the actors who worked with them. From throwing tantrums to psychological warfare, these 10 Golden Age directors were notorious tyrants on set. They might have made movie magic, but they left a trail of traumatized stars in their wake. The stories about number 4 will absolutely make your jaw drop. You've seen their films, they're celebrated in film schools and immortalized with awards, but the dark truth about how these visionaries treated their actors has been whispered about in Hollywood for decades. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the industry's most notorious taskmasters. Get ready for the shocking behind-the-scenes drama that would make even their most intense movies seem tame by comparison. Before we dive into these infamous directors, let's talk about the Golden Age of Hollywood, a time when studios ruled supreme and directors wielded incredible power. From the 1920s through the 1960s, these filmmakers were essentially dictators of their movie sets. With studio backing and little oversight, they could make or break careers with a single word. Their behavior would never be tolerated today, but back then, actors had little choice but to endure whatever abuse came their way if they wanted to stay in the industry. Studio contracts meant actors couldn't just walk away, and speaking out could end a promising career before it truly began. So let's meet the tyrants who terrorized Tinseltown's biggest stars, starting with number 10. Number 10, Otto Preminger. Austrian-born Otto Preminger might be remembered for groundbreaking films like Laura and Anatomy of a Murder, but on set, he was known as Otto the Terrible. His volcanic temper was legendary in Hollywood, and his shouting matches became the stuff of industry lore. Preminger was notorious for his explosive outbursts aimed at anyone who dared make the smallest mistake. He wasn't just demanding, he was downright cruel. Actors reported being publicly humiliated for flubbing lines or missing marks. Linda Darnell, who worked with him on Fallen Angel, once said working with Preminger was the most miserable experience of my professional life. Even the great Marilyn Monroe wasn't spared his wrath during the filming of River of No Return, where witnesses report she left the set in tears multiple times. But let's not pretend everything was fine. While his films received critical acclaim, Preminger's brutal directing style left emotional scars on many actors. He believed terror was a motivational tool, and he wielded it with frightening precision. Despite being feared and loathed by most who worked with him, studios kept hiring him because his films made money, and in Hollywood, the bottom line always trumped actor welfare. Number 9. Michael Curtiz. Known for directing classics like Casablanca and Mildred Pierce, Hungarian-born Michael Curtiz had a reputation for being utterly ruthless in pursuit of the perfect shot. Stories about his callous disregard for actor safety have become Hollywood legend. During the filming of Noah's Ark in 1928, Curtiz ordered the release of 600,000 gallons of water for a flood scene without warning the extras, resulting in injuries and near drownings. 3 extras reportedly drowned, though studio records were conveniently lost regarding this incident. Curtiz's response: they're only extras. Errol Flynn, who worked with Curtiz on multiple films including The Adventures of Robin Hood, absolutely despised him. Flynn claimed Curtiz's broken English meant he could conveniently misunderstand safety concerns. When actors complained about dangerous stunts, Curtiz would simply pretend not to understand their objections. His temper was just as dangerous as his stunts. Bette Davis called him a monster after working with him on 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, while other actors reported being pushed to physical exhaustion or berated until they broke down in tears. Yet Curtiz continued working because his films were box office gold, cementing his reputation as a director who got results, no matter the human cost. Number 8. Alfred Hitchcock. The master of suspense was also a master of psychological torture, particularly toward his leading ladies. While Hitchcock's brilliance is undeniable, his treatment of actresses reveals a disturbing pattern of obsession and cruelty. His most notorious victim was Tippi Hedren during the filming of The Birds. When Hedren rejected his advances, Hitchcock reportedly said he would ruin her career. He then subjected her to 5 days of having live birds thrown at her for the film's attic scene, despite promises that mechanical birds would be used. Hedren suffered cuts, exhaustion, and a nervous breakdown. When she tried to escape her contract after this treatment, Hitchcock held her to it while refusing to use her in films, effectively ending her promising career. But Hitchcock's controlling behavior wasn't limited to Hedren. Janet Leigh was forced to film the infamous shower scene in Psycho for a week, standing in cold water until she was shivering and traumatized. Kim Novak, Grace Kelly, and Vera Miles all reported uncomfortable experiences with his controlling behavior. Behind that iconic silhouette and dry wit was a man who used his power to dominate, control, and punish women who resisted him. Yet for decades, this behavior was dismissed as eccentricity or the price of genius, while his actresses suffered in silence. Number 7. John Ford. A six-time Oscar winner renowned for westerns like The Searchers and Stagecoach, John Ford was equally famous for his brutal treatment of actors. Even the biggest stars weren't safe from his wrath. Ford's preferred method of directing was humiliation. He would publicly ridicule actors in front of the entire cast and crew, reducing grown men to tears. Henry Fonda, despite starring in some of Ford's greatest films, described working with him as walking through a minefield. You never knew when Ford would explode. His cruelty toward John Wayne is particularly well documented. Before Wayne became a star, Ford would repeatedly single him out for savage criticism. During the filming of Stagecoach, Ford would mock Wayne's acting ability so harshly that other cast members felt uncomfortable. Wayne later admitted that working with Ford was like walking into daily psychological warfare. Even the great Katharine Hepburn wasn't immune. During Mary of Scotland, Ford deliberately kept Hepburn waiting for hours in a heavy costume under hot lights, seemingly just to break her spirit. When actors complained or stood up to him, they were often fired on the spot or blacklisted from future Ford productions. What made Ford's abuse so insidious was its unpredictability. He could be charming one moment and viciously cruel the next, keeping his actors in a constant state of anxiety. Yet they continued to work with him because a John Ford film could make your career if you survive the experience. Number 6. Stanley Kubrick. While Kubrick's career extended beyond the traditional golden age, he got his start in that era and exemplified the tyrannical director archetype. His perfectionism bordered on pathological, with actors often pushed to mental breaking points. The stories from The Shining are legendary. Kubrick forced Shelley Duvall to perform the baseball bat scene 127 times, still holding the record for most takes of a single scene with dialogue. By the end, Duvall was physically ill from stress, dehydrated from crying, and losing her hair. Her portrayal of terror wasn't acting, it was real psychological distress. Jack Nicholson eventually stopped answering his phone because he couldn't bear being called back for more takes. When Malcolm McDowell's eyes were damaged during A Clockwork Orange from the clamps holding his eyes open, Kubrick simply continued filming. Kubrick's shoots were marathon sessions of psychological endurance. He made Tom Cruise reshoot a simple scene of walking through a door 95 times for Eyes Wide Shut. The film took 400 days to shoot, a record for a continuous production, leaving the entire cast exhausted and demoralized. What made Kubrick's approach particularly difficult was his refusal to explain what he wanted. Actors reported never knowing if they were doing well or poorly. They just had to keep performing the same scenes dozens, sometimes hundreds of times until Kubrick was satisfied. This deliberate technique kept actors in a constant state of insecurity and desperate to please. Number 5. Fritz Lang. The creator of masterpieces like Metropolis and M, German director Fritz Lang had a reputation for tyranny that followed him from Europe to Hollywood. His sets were described as dictatorships, where actors lived in constant fear. Lang's perfectionism manifested as cruelty. During Metropolis, actress Brigitte Helm was cut and bruised from the tight metal robot costume she wore for hours without breaks. In a scene where children were rescued from a flood, Lang kept the young actors in cold water for so long that several became ill with pneumonia. When Lang came to America, his behavior didn't improve. On the set of Western Union, Lang allegedly threw actor Robert Young down a flight of stairs to get a more realistic look of pain. Marlene Dietrich called him the most cruel director I've ever worked with after their collaboration on Rancho Notorious. Peter Lorre, who worked with Lang on M, described him as tyrannical, insane with power. Lang would deliberately terrify his actors to get authentic fear reactions, sometimes firing guns without warning behind them during filming. He was known to slap actors who displeased him and would often film scenes of physical discomfort until actors were genuinely suffering. Despite his artistic brilliance, Lang's sets were places of fear and intimidation, where actor welfare meant nothing compared to his artistic vision. Many refused to work with him twice, regardless of the prestige his films offered. Number 4. David O. Selznick. Now we arrive at number 4, and trust me, these stories are truly shocking. While primarily known as a producer, Selznick frequently took over directing duties on his productions, most famously on Gone with the Wind, after firing multiple directors. His tyrannical behavior reached legendary status, particularly during the making of this classic film. Selznick's abuse of power was extraordinary even by Golden